All right, let's begin our meeting today. Dean, do you want to give us update?
Good morning, Dr. Che. So, um, yeah, apologies. It's been a while since I could last join lab meeting.
Oh, it's okay. So are you in that company or where are you now?
Yeah, so I'm working for a consulting firm, but focused on life sciences. So I'm actually working on a project right now related to CAR T immunotherapy.
Oh,
So
Abby?
yeah, no, it's like a smaller like CAR T specialty company.
Mm.
So we're
What is it
helping
called?
them. Uh, well, we can't share the name of the client, but
Oh, the client. Okay.
yeah, the client. But we're helping them kind of come up with a strategy for sort of what indication expansions they want to explore in future disease areas related to lymphoma. So um, yeah, we just started this past week, but it seems to be a pretty interesting project.
Mm.
Yeah.
You like it? Do you see yourself continue to do it?
I I think I want to keep seeing like what the impact actually is,
Uh,
because I think there are some projects that are so my previous project was actually um, again, I can't share the client name, but it was related to like a pretty big oncology drug, like co-promotion partnership,
mm,
but it was more related to like the internal like commercial teams and how they operate and how they work with each other, as
mm,
opposed to anything closer to the science. So I
I
think I
see.
want to keep doing projects that are more, related to science and disease areas and stuff. But yeah, yeah,
Tell us where you've worked before. Moffitt, MSK?
yeah. So I guess starting in high school, I worked at Moffitt one summer. That was like mathematical oncology. So
Mathematical oncology, what is that?
yeah, so that's using like basically seeing if we can estimate
Uh-huh.
patient response to radiotherapy using a
Uh-huh.
mathematical model.
Uh,
So we had this set of patient data for non-small cell lung cancer,
mm,
and basically my PI's idea was that there's this thing called proliferation saturation index. So
mm,
the ratio of like how much tumor cells relatively are like proliferated relative to its maximum capacity.
mm,
And so it turns out if you plug in certain values from the patient, you can kind of create like a map of how is it going to respond to radiotherapy.
mm.
Um,
Okay, where's the next
yes.
one?
And then I worked at MSK for one summer. That was just kind of doing data entry support for the Department of Surgery. So
Uh,
they have the Da Vinci robot, so they wanted to kind of keep track of, is it leading to better outcomes or faster operations
I see.
relative to people.
Okay, the next one.
Um, I worked at AbbVie 2 summers ago.
Uh,
So that was with immunology discovery group.
mm,
So that one was looking at Humira, and
mm,
I think the patent expiry is relatively soon, so they want to kind of see if they can understand like different mechanisms of action for other disease areas or
mm,
other things within rheumatoid arthritis.
mm,
So yeah, I think that's all.
mm.
Yeah,
Okay, just
yeah,
curious.
yeah,
Good. All right, so give us update on the project.
yeah. So I actually was able to go to the lab last Friday to kind of finish the data collection
Mm,
for the remaining patients. So current status of the Nevo um, Veli trial is I know you last lab meeting I was able to join. We had some comments that I'm still finishing working through, but at least I have all the data ready in one spot, so I don't have to like be in present at lab anymore.
okay.
So that one I can have like the drafts ready for. I think we identified CCR as the top journal, and then JITC is the second one we want to submit to.
Uh-huh.
So I think I can have both of those ready by next week, in like a manuscript ready version.
Okay.
I guess the only question I had is, one comment you had before. So we were able to like identify, from the Gardner reports and things like that, what the relevant mutation is. But I know you mentioned using Revel or using a similar tool. I guess, is there someone at lab you recommend to kind of reach out to for any advice or tips on how to use that?
Oh, so you've never used that before?
No, I reached out to Dr. Eugen a
No.
while ago, but I think that was right around when she was busy with other stuff, so I never was able to find time with her.
So I think she knows how to do it. Eugene Kim is the one who initially was doing. Do you know Eugene Kim? He's in
Yeah.
Feinberg.
Okay.
So he knows how to do it, but I would suggest that you explore it yourself first. It's
Yeah.
a easy program. You just go and so there's different algorithms that calls like if the variants are functional or not, but
Yeah.
this one is more combined and you kind of use
Across different tools.
so
Yeah.
so it kind of gives you like a percentage how many algorithms call this functional. So it's got a pretty good interface. So I think as long as you put the gene and the individual variants in there, you should be fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I took a look at it before.
She's done with all the interviews and exams, so she should have some time to help you. Eugene Kim can help you, so use them as your resource, but you may not need
Okay.
it. So kind of
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll have that ready for next week. I think from what I saw, like for CCR, there's not a lot of like rules around manuscripts length
Okay.
or things like that. And the JITC, I know we have like a cover letter and stuff from before, so I'll try to have both of those.
I
ready
mean,
for next
you should start with CCR then.
week. Okay, just CCR.
Oh, you mean sending the abstract?
Or like the manuscript, like having it ready in that journal format, because I know some of them are different, so at least want to have two of them
So
ready.
start with CCR, submit
Okay.
CCR. If we don't get it, then reformat it into JITC and submit it.
Okay.
So that's Nevo Veliparib.
Yeah. And then for Nevo Metformin, I also finished the like patient data collection stuff. So yeah, I apologize, that one's also like not ready to show for today, but I think similar plan now that I have all the patient data we want, and we have a updated like report from the statistics group. So I think that one, the journals we had also CCR and JITC. So yeah, I will also have that one in CCR format. But yeah, I think all the content that we need from the patient charts I have in my notes already. So I should be able to just assemble that together. And then with the spots that we want to use Revel to kind of explore things like that, I'll try to work on it. And if I'm not able to find anything like in the next few days, then I'll reach out to Dr. Eugen and try to get that done over the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, because we're submitting kind of at the same time, I think Nevo Metformin can be, you can start at JITC first.
Okay, just search. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I know like for previous reports, we would just send an email to the editorial team even before submission, just giving them a heads up that we have this and tentatively asking if they're interested. Should I do the similar thing for both of these two?
No, I think you can just submit
No,
it.
just submit it. Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. It's clinical trial results, so you should be fine.
Okay.
And
Um,
if they can't get in, use the oncologist as a third option.
yeah, I think the list we had before from the ones you mentioned, I know like you wanted to have it in order of impact factor. So the ones on our list were CCR and then JITC and then lung cancer and then clinical lung cancer and then
Mm,
JTO-CRR.
mm,
And then I think the oncologist after that.
mhm, mhm.
So yeah, I think
So
after
nivolumab is not lung cancer only, it's
right,
every.
right. So yeah, so nivolumab, we had CCR, JITC, cancer, and then MCT, I think molecular cancer therapeutics, and then the oncologist, and then JCOPO.
Mm, mm.
So if yeah, I guess if CCR or JITC don't work out, then we have a couple others that you recommended from before
Okay, I actually changed my mind. Let's go for MCT first, nivolumab,
instead of CCR.
instead of CCR. So let's do
Okay.
this. Send abstract to MCT and ask that if they're willing to take this, because they're usually taking preclinical studies, not clinical trials.
Okay.
They may take it. So let's ask MCT, send it today. Ask them. If they say no, just go to CCRJITC. If they say yes, send it to MCT first. Metformin, you can start with JITC first. And then we'll go to CCR. And then, yeah,
Okay.
we'll decide.
Okay.
So if you need help, I think Dr. Hesong Kim can help you. Or Richard can help you too. Richard.
Yeah, yeah. I saw your email. I'll reply to that.
But I guess if you're done, if you don't need any help, and it's fine. I just sent you that email because I didn't know how available you were.
Yeah.
And I didn't see you in the lab meeting, so that's why I thought you might need help. But what do you want to do?
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I mean, the things that you just shared, I can definitely get that done this week. But I'll still reach out to Richard or reply to the email with Richard at least just to give him a heads up for like where I am in the process. So if there's future submissions or stuff that he has done that he's more familiar with, then I can do that. And then also Dr. Hassan, I can also message you on Messenger if that's okay.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, at least yeah, I shared with Dr. Liam, but at least moving forward. So this project that I'm on, most of the team is based on West Coast, so I at least have the morning relatively more free because I'm Chicago time. So I'll try to be joined regularly from this week forward.
oh, good, good.
Yeah. So
So the rule is, let's say if Richard or Hesong helps you in proofreading or in more like a minor revision, the
mhm,
rule is we put them in endorsement.
okay.
If they make a contribution enough to be co-author of the paper, we will acknowledge them as a co-author in the paper. So that is to be determined, but you're welcome to get their help as much as you can.
Yeah.
But if you don't need it, you don't need it. Sometimes you're just waiting for them to finish. It's gonna take longer sometimes.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it up to you. But
Okay.
I'm offering, help. And and both Hesong and Richard, they're kind of involved in writing the Nivo AP trial
Yeah.
papers. So that's why they both are knowledgeable now enough to help you.
Yeah. And then I guess one minor thing for the Nevo metformin,
Mhm.
at least in the very original draft Dr. Pedro shared, we didn't have any list of authors. And at least I know like for Nevo Valley, there were several other people like outside of our immediate lab or outside Dr. Elena too. So would you know where to look to get that list of authors for the
I think
NevoMet
Nepo
trial?
metformin was presented at one of the meetings. So look for that abstract.
Okay.
Maybe Liam, do you know Nepo metformin abstract that was presented?
No,
Maybe
I do
maybe
not.
if you look at my CV, Liam just
Yeah.
sent my CV, the most updated one. It might have Nepo metformin abstract that we poster we presented at one of
Okay.
the.
Okay.
And you
I
can
can.
Google it. You go to World Lung, ISLAC,
Yeah.
SITC, AACR, ASCO. It's most likely, one of those four
Yeah.
that presented.
Okay.
So there should be author list there, and then whoever helped you can be but when you go through revision with me, I will sort of clarify who should be where and
Of course. Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
about it.
Okay. Yeah. So I will have.
But
this
all
ready.
these clinical trials, I will be the first and the corresponding author.
Yeah.
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 Okay, anything else? And if you don't
Okay.
know where to put it, just instead of writing it, just put the list
Yeah.
and I'll decide where they should be.
Okay. Yeah. So I can have that ready for next week, and I'll reach out to reach out to other people as needed.
Okay.
But yeah.
Good. So let's get it out. Yeah. You got the biomarker data for both,
Yeah.
right?
For both.
Okay, so it'll be a good paper. Good. I'm glad you're available now.
Yeah.
So let's
Yeah.
get this done.
All right. Thank you, Dr.
Very
Chang.
good, Dean. Good. All right, we'll move on. Juhi, I know you're in Korean time, so
Hi, so for ours, so regarding the full update, I think we need more time for the meta-analysis, and I'm a little confused about because I know we were trying to talk about PSA,
mhm,
compare it as a single cancer to our MCD.
mhm,
I found some articles,
mhm.
but I guess I'm a little confused in comparing them because you know how for PSA you usually screen men between like a certain age, whereas for MCD we're trying to do it in like the general population sort of.
Mhm.
So I guess we can talk about it, but I don't know how directly we will be able to compare.
Mhm.
And
So what did you find? Like numbers, are they comparable? Are they very off? Or what do you think? When you literature.
I don't think they're that comparable. But I guess we could talk about it. The numbers, well, it depends because it depends on like how much you want the threshold to be for PSA. So how much nanogram you want it per milliliter. So if you want it like 1.6, or if you want 3, or if you want 4. So the sensitivity and specificity will change according to that. So
No, I would say what is most commonly used in clinic. So let's
Mhm.
say we all have, let's say hemoglobin has its normal range, right? So,
Mhm.
and if you click on Epic, you'll see if it's off, the number is gonna be red.
Yeah.
So what is
Yeah.
that for PSA?
I think they, well, at least this journal tried to use 3, but there's another thing about PSA is that it doesn't only detect cancer, but it also detects like inflammation of the prostate and all. So it's not like super specific in that sense.
Right. So that's
Uh,
the argument we want to make, that its
Okay.
specificity is very low.
Okay, but we want to use it as like a So we're saying that we want to use it as like a representative screening test that would test for a single cancer that we don't think is very effective, which is why we're looking for other options, is the argument we want to make.
Similar, where,
Okay.
because one may argue, like, how good does it have to be in clinic? You know, how,
Mhm.
and I guess the PSA is one example. And then, like you said, you have to mention that this is a very targeted man and
Yeah.
age. So, you know, its performance is gonna drop a lot if you look at general population as, but considering that the performance, the sensitivity and specificity is this, and you know, even with this you know number, it has made its way into clinic and people are using it as part of a screening. Um, so it kind of gives an idea like what will make it to clinic,
Okay.
and then compare to our numbers. So
Also, sorry, also when I was reading up, I had a little question. So like, because PSA is so well established, a lot of the literature are from the very past. So I found like a relatively like newer one, but that it felt a little off topic. Like I found one from JAMA, which talked about PSA specifically, and I found one from Nature, which was from 2020, which is super recent, but it's not like just focusing on PSA. It's like comparing PSA with MRI and stuff like that. But I'm like, how far back in the past am I allowed to use for reference? Because PSA has been around for so long. So like a lot of the, I guess, popular reviews seem to be like back in the day reviews. And I don't know if it's okay for me to compare those reviews or if I want to just focus on the recent ones. I'm a little confused there.
I guess you think that the recent reviews cover the prior literature? We like to use the recent ones, but
Okay.
also you're right.
I just feel there's not enough.
Because like MRI can say the findings are consistent with prostate cancer, but you need biopsy to prove it's cancer, right? So
Yeah.
endpoint is the cancer incidence,
Mhm.
and whether PSA, you know, leads to early detection.
Okay.
So the answer
With
is
2004, is that an okay year?
yes, it's okay year.
Okay. Anywhere in the 2000s is okay. Like I'm gonna still use the 2020 and the 2014.
Right.
But I felt like the early 2000s are when there were a lot of reviews coming out, and I would like to include that.
Yes, it's fine.
Okay.
I think the biggest, if you have meta-analysis, that's good. And then the largest number of patient, you know, cohort study is always good.
Okay. So that's like,
you know, if you go to NCCN or maybe the NIH task force, that's
yeah.
NIH task force. There's a early detection screening task force. Liam, what is it called? That USPF preventative task.
Oh, that one. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Task force.
We have it in our manuscript.
Task force, TPF.
Yeah.
So that's the most popular one. That's like the government really got together because it's matter of using national resource. They're tax money. So they come up with like, oh, the PSA should start at age 40, 50, or they changed their guideline from mammography. It used to be something and they lowered it, and then they do all this. They did, and then there's cost-effective analysis. I think you're familiar with that, right? So but they it's all data driven. So if you go to their homepage and their guideline
Okay.
for
I usually
PSA,
use their reference.
they have their reference, like what
Okay,
pivotal trial they based on their, guideline.
Mhm.
That is the
Yeah.
one you should not miss. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. And for the so I was trying to tackle this other comment, which seems to be like the main comment where the reviewer too talked about how he doesn't think meta-analysis is appropriate because we're dealing with such different and such inherently like distinct essays.
Yeah.
So I was trying to write like a paragraph, but I am not totally convinced with my paragraph. Like, I feel it was a little difficult how to word it, and I was wondering if I could get some help there. I tried to say things that like we understand that
Very
the
different. Yeah.
how different everything, how inherently distinct these essays are, but we're trying to understand how the CFDNA essays collectively perform.
Hmm.
So we're trying to look at the general trend is what I tried to say, but like I don't really have much else to say, and I don't know. I try, but I just couldn't form sentences that sound convincing.
Mm-mm-mm.
And I shared this with Liam too, because I wasn't sure how to like frame the sentences anymore.
Yeah. I mean, what you just said is okay. Maybe
Mhm.
need a punch. I
Yeah.
think so as long as it meets our criteria for like a blood-based multi-cancer early detection assay. And I guess most of them are ctDNA based, whether solely or in combination.
Mhm.
I guess we have some just protein based, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I guess we understand there's inherent differences and all that, but I guess we purposefully decided on these criteria, and we selected paper that meets this criteria. I mean, that's systematic approach, and it's just blood-based, multi-cancer, general population based.
Mm. Mhm.
So and then to overcome the technical difficulties, we did subgroup analysis just doing ctDNA based, different we did subgroup, platform based subgroup analysis to sort of explore that gap, or tackle that gap.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I didn't mention subgroup analysis. Okay.
I think that's enough. I think if they don't like it, they don't like it, and they'll reject. If you meet someone like Dr. Shin, like someone's got to do this type of work, and they
Yeah.
publish.
Okay. Yeah. For the actual stuff Dr. Shin talked about, we need a little more time, so we're gonna try to use up this week for the meta-analysis. Finish up the PSA, like you said, I'm gonna include the early 2000s. So hopefully I'll have paragraphs. I'll redo the paragraph we just talked about, so we'll have more to show for next week. But
And what
yeah,
journal? What journal are we in?
we're gonna email JCO. I feel like they're gonna come back to us within like 1 or 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then afterwards we're gonna just go down the list.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And oh yeah, well, this is not for lab meeting, but I might see you in early ASCO, but yeah, not related to that. Sorry.
Oh, ASCO?
I'm trying to make my flight so I can go to ASCO, but like the first 2-3 days, I think.
Hmm.
You'll be around, right? I thought you would be.
ASCO, yeah, it's in
Yes.
Chicago. So
Yes.
ASCO it's always
June 2nd to 6th.
June 2nd to 6th.
Yes.
And the residency starts at usually mid-June.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So, Jui, where are you in your application process?
I will be applying this upcoming year. So this year.
Oh, okay. How long are you gonna be in Chicago?
Not that long. I'll just be there for like the beginning of ASCO. And then I have to finish up the observership thingy for the letters. And then I have to come back and take step 3.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Are you presenting at ASCO?
I don't think so.
You should.
I was gonna be there for support.
If you're ASCO, when is ASCO deadline, Liam?
Did we all submit already?
When was it?
No, the deadline coming up, it's February 14th.
Oh, I
Submit
thought we
something. Juhi, you should submit something.
there's nothing to submit.
So
This is the only thing I'm working.
from this, did we submit 2 abstracts
Yes,
for AACR?
yes.
You should come to Orlando then.
Oh my goodness.
Liam's gonna go.
When is that though? I don't think it goes with my itinerary.
Liam's going, Liso's going, Haesung might go.
That's amazing.
It's in Orlando. Yeah, ESCO's good, but I don't. So we did tissue of origin and meta-analysis, right?
Yes.
Anything else that can come out from this project? That you did not present that's in supplemental, anything?
I don't know, honestly.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I'll be there in like the first 2 days. I wanted to drop by and say hi to everybody because I feel like you'll be there. Liam's gonna be there.
Hmm.
But yeah.
You can generate something. I feel like you guys you did so many subgroup analysis, right?
Mhm.
So you can kind of extract maybe just ctDNA only, and just present that data, because that wasn't mentioned in the big meta-analysis. Or like, protein only versus, ctDNA only, and just compare those numbers.
I think did we do protein only?
Oh, something like, I think you did combination and then
Oh yeah, we did the comment. Oh, okay.
combination mono, but you can kind of break it down to different platforms in, more in detail. And maybe see whatever came out between AACR and now and add those. I would totally present, you're coming. So whatever is in the subgroup analysis, focus that and maybe do more in-depth analysis. Yeah, I think the early detection field is still pretty, I guess, open field. Clinical trial, all these things are very competitive, but I think early detection is still, you have room to show more data. So maybe talk to Eugene and Liam and figure out what are the figures that are not, in AACR that can like be expanded. So I would totally recommend that. Yeah.
I'll ask Eugene if she sees something. But yeah, I mean it's only 2 weeks from now, so.
But it's already done. You guys wrote the whole paper, so it's
That's
not
true.
like, it's, yeah.
It's
I
not
think
from
it's
scratch.
really doable. If you're coming, you should present.
But if the days don't line up, then I don't like someone else needs to present in my stead though.
Yeah,
The-
I mean,
the-
Liam will go, I will go, so
Yeah.
so don't worry about it.
Yeah, so I'll be there for like the first 2 days, I think.
Yeah, yeah. But still go and present, and it will definitely help your career too.
That's true.
Presenting at ASCO is very prestigious because it's so competitive.
I
Yeah.
know, but it's so scary at the same time. Never presented.
Well, it'll be good experience for you. Stand up in front of the poster and present.
I'll be bombarded by questions.
But it's good. And then all these companies will come to you. They will ask questions.
Exactly.
Garden people will come to you, and but you make friends. That's the thing. You know, that's how you build collaborations. And I'll give you an example of my, friend Ungi, Dr. Ungi Park. He's at Memorial Sloan Kettering. He's our like the GBM mentors, one of the mentors. He, like, as a resident and fellow, he would go to ASCO and ACR, and then the poster people would come, and then he'll make friends with them. Like, there would be investigator from Japan, France, other European countries, and he would like really write to them, hey, let's share data, let's merge data, and let's publish together. So he actually did all those projects with people he met in the meeting. And like, what can resident do or fellow do? Like, he just needed the CBC data and the survival outcome. So his project was the NLR, lymphocyte and neutrophil ratio. So it's easy to collect. If you have a chart, then you get it. So he merged data from Northwestern, Japan, France, and his group in Florida and
Mhm.
New York, and wrote really nice paper. So I
Mhm.
mean, it kind of starts because it's kind of hard to initiate a project, not
Mhm.
knowing that person, just with email. So these meetings are really good place to get to know people. So I definitely encourage you to present.
Okay, I'll try to talk to Eugene.
Yeah, because we don't have much
See
time.
what she sees.
Talk to
Yeah.
her and communicate me through the messenger. Like, think about, a subgroup analysis that looks promising, and just talk to me. We'll have ongoing discussion on daily basis to get this launched.
Mhm. Okay. I just messaged her just now, so hopefully when I hear back, then I'll let you know
Okay,
and update you how it goes.
okay.
So yeah. So I hope to see you
Yeah, that's
summer.
coming soon. I'm actually visiting Korea, so you're welcome to come to any of my symposiums that I go to. So, like the
Oh
last
my God.
time.
Can I get your schedule?
Yeah, I'll get your schedule. So I'm speaking at, there's a physician scientist forum in Seoul National University Medical School.
Oh,
That'll be a
nice.
fun one. And we're doing career mentoring. So they're inviting me and my colleagues
Wow.
who's a faculty at Vanderbilt, Stanford, Yale, and they're all coming to kind of talk to students and trainees about how they built their career
Mhm.
as a physician
Oh,
scientist. They're all clinicians, but they're also physician scientists.
mhm.
So it's all about career mentoring and setting up physician science track in Korea. How to do
Mhm.
that? It's MD PhD track here. There's like the fellow and PhD track. There's so many different tracks in the United States. So we want to tell them, what we've done here. Yeah, so you're welcome to come to any of those forums, career mentoring sessions. Yeah, so it'll be fun.
Okay. Let me know. That'll be fun. When is this? Which month is this?
This is March. The main event is March 8th.
Oh, wow.
That's
Okay. That
Friday.
sounds great.
Yeah. All right, so I'll tell you more about it.
Okay, sounds good.
Right, thanks. Okay, maybe Andrew, you want to give us update?
Yeah, I'll start it. I feel much better now. Sleeping a lot. Thank you. Okay. Here, today's lab meeting. All right, it's gonna go through this current progress report, and I got an email from Trial Informatics and the future plan. Finally, we will receive all your feedbacks and goals for plan. Now, currently project progress report. This one was last week's lab meeting. So Dr. J was coming top to the bottom. I was going bottom to the top. And this is today. We finished yesterday and everything, every part is filled. But these are the new sections you talked about last week, is about resist criteria and the work we should cooperate with Trial Informatics. We still haven't filled this part yet. This one was new part. So these are the 5 data we have to collect throughout this week. And currently these are my PowerPoint slides. We are collecting data from the EPIC system. We gather them around, highlight the parts that correspond with the data we should collect. We use garden data as a screenshot. Now although we filled up most of the parts, there are still minor details we need to fix. Me and Dr. J are collaborating on it, and there are red sections that we wrote no immunotherapy, and I'm gonna go through our double check process with these things because sometimes they use the other drug name like Opdivo or they use just Atezo, and I'm gonna do a beacon checking of these things to make sure they are actually no immunotherapy at all. So these are things I'm gonna double check it. And just like I show you, resist criteria that we're cooperating with Trial Informatics, these are still in progress. Now we got the email from Trial Informatics. This is the email I've sent. When can we get the beta version of the program for analysis of resist? We want to know the exact date. And they said that they're gonna get it by February 10th. So they sent us the protocol. They sent us the job that we have to do. So load images, run resist criteria, and they will send us the browser that we can upload pictures to do the resist criteria. So future plan is this is today. This is February 10th, the beta version arrival date. So before that, we will go through the minor detail. We'll fix the minor details. We'll fill out the resist criteria forms and prepare for beta version analysis they give us.
So let me give you a comment here. This is a new program you're going to play with, and it will take time to adjust. It will do a lot of work for you. However, you're done with the data, so you have clinical outcome. So you can do everything as you've done with Yuri before. So don't wait for the beta version. That's a sidebar. The job is with this data, we collected more data. So see with the Yuri's algorithm, AI algorithm, see if the expanded data set makes any difference in terms of showing, predictive power of radiomics in our patient survival outcome who received immunotherapy. Okay, so this is to help draw, spider plot, resist change, all that. It's going to calculate it for you, but it's going to require a lot of work. You're going to have to upload, scan, and do the measurements yourself again, over again. So it's going to take a lot of time. So it's the future, and this is what we're going to do, but because we need to decide whether Yuri's algorithm is or not at the preliminary data level. So I think we need to do that, and then simultaneously work with Liam, because I know the DT data transfer agreement is ongoing with Picture Health. So once that's ready, we should transfer data, and it's getting February. Tomorrow. So I guess we'll start that conversation with Lunit, how we can send our DICOM file to Lunit as well. So we have 2 other partners. We're going to collaborate no matter what the other outcome's going to be. It's not going to be dependent on the other company. So at least we'll do that. Yeah. So keep that going, and before we get the beta version, my expectation, you work with Yuri to produce the algorithm and do the survival analysis together.
Yes, sir. And that will be all.
So
All right, thank you for listening.
yeah, so we have to show that radiomics works. We're not convinced that radiomics is working. If it's working with a decent algorithm, the next thing is it working only for our cohort, or is it working in other hospitals' cohort? So that's why Picture Health is important, because they claim to have a data set that is working in different 2 hospitals. That's their publication. So read Picture Health publications. It was sent by Picture Health. So as Liam has it. And we're hoping that they would use the same algorithm, that's kind of based on the vessel tortuosity, and see if it works in our data set. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, and why does it not work, and do some troubleshooting. And if it doesn't work, then we're gonna still remain doubtful whether it's an algorithm problem, or is it, is it just the inherent limitation of AI radiomics? Because it's very different because of what machine they used and what was the contrast time. There's so many variables involved. So because you can never, because I bet some of the CT scans might have used CT angio. It's same contrast scan, but the amount of the contrast they used is so different. So just the fact that some of the CT with IV contrast is CT angio, if they have more shorter breath, then we get CT angio. That will make huge difference, huge error in AI in learning. So the same thing with pathomics. Was it stained well and it was a bad staining? Then there's so many inherent variables that are confounders. So it's very hard for AI to learn all that and understand the nuances, unless you have like millions of slides, millions of CT scans. So with something like few hundreds, I feel like there's a lot of limitations. So I think the first step is AI radiomics still working or not? And although there are a few like papers out there, Dr. Shira Kang reviewed all them, and some of them are showing very good AAUC. If it's a single institution paper, we don't know. It's called data fitting, model fitting. It might be just model fitting and may not be transferable or generalizable in other institutions, other machines, other settings. So we're still doubtful, but I think we have to close the loop by at least exploring 3 different algorithms, 3 different companies. But the data is valuable in terms of we're collecting genomics for these patients and then annotating RECIST-based progression for all the patients is so valuable that we decided to use the trial informatics program. Okay, so that's my comment. Any questions?
No, thank you, sir.
So work with Jisang to reach out to Yuri. So I would whatever data you finished, I would send to Yuri today and say, hey, this is ready, and let's run the analysis now this week, and see what that shows. And also it's important to get all the scans downloaded. I know you, Liam, you're working on that, so yeah, keep working. And I don't know we'll have a positive result, but I would like, if you have time, I would write out the introduction, methods, everything still, whether it's positive or negative. I think assuming that the algorithm has once shown positive results, we can still publish negative results. So I would start writing the abstract at least for this project. And just plug in the numbers once the AUC and other things come out. Okay. Very good. Anything else?
No, that will be also. That will be all. Thank you for the nice feedback.
Great. Great. Yeah. So Jisang and Wonjun, yeah, you did great job. Very, very good hard work, and hopefully something good will come out of it. And if it doesn't, that's science. I think, we'll do our part, but then whether there is good correlation or not, we don't know. But what's good about clinical science is if you have negative results, it should still be, I believe, should still be presented. So that, it's called publication bias. Only the positive results are published, but they need to know the negative results as well, as long as you do it through publicly validated algorithm. So, okay, Jiyeon, we'll move to you.
Yes, I have several updates on my project. This is about the original article. It is completed and now it's in English editing. Because it has it is still poor, so I can't show you right now. But give me a couple of days, and I will send it to you.
Okay.
And international team also reviewed again,
Mhm.
and I got permission. I got approval.
Nice.
So
They approve.
yes, we can just submit. And I will submit this one as an ASCO abstract.
Okay.
And this is the
What
second
is
one.
the title again, like the title.
Yes.
So the survival outcome of bilateral cancer, bilateral lung cancer, and instance of post-transplant lung cancer after double lung transplant. Survival of bilateral lung cancer. Bilateral lung cancer. Bilateral lung cancer. Post-transplant. A little bit, it sounds a little bit duplicate, like post-transplant lung cancer after lung transplant. What do you think? I don't know. Liam, what do you think about the post-transplant lung cancer? And
Yeah,
it says
so-
after lung transplant.
So it's a little,
Redundant?
yeah, so I think it would be more clear if we bring out double lung transplantation to the front, like. Or it's
Mhm.
a suggestion, so maybe post double lung transplantation survival outcomes.
Post double lung transplant survival outcomes
And then keep.
of bilateral cancer.
Mhm.
I like that.
Can you repeat? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, so basically just bring out the double lung transplantation to the front. So it's post double lung transplantation.
Post double lung transplantation.
Mhm.
And then keep everything else in the original title up
Survive
to like post transplant lung cancer.
here.
Yeah, I think this is better.
Post double lung transplantation survivor outcome. So biological cancer. Okay.
Yeah, I like this better.
Thank you.
Sound less, I mean, there's two transplantation, but it's like, yeah, I
Mhm.
think it's clear.
Should be uppercase D.
Yeah. You can do that.
Thank you. And next one is a review article. It is almost done, but I'm still revising that. And I sent the cover letter to Journal of Thoracic Oncology, and the editor rejected it.
Why, was there a reason?
Well, the journal was not interested in this subject.
Oh, not interested?
Yes. Yes, carefully reviewed, but I'm so sorry. We are not interested in this subject. Yeah. Maybe this is about the surgical procedure, because Journal of Thoracic Oncology may be more interested about a real cancer, research or the survivor outcomes.
Uh-huh.
And next considerable journal would be Journal of Heart and Lung Transplantation.
Mhm.
But this journal, we don't need to send the cover letter before submission. So should I try this journal or the other journal? Anything? you recommend?
This journal is the same one for the above one.
Yes, yes.
So this is review. The other one is, brief
Original article.
original article. Yeah, I think this is a main journal, so I think we should try this one. Yeah.
Yeah. They may interested about transplantation because the title of journal is transplantation.
Right. They have
Yeah.
to be interested.
Yeah. And even impact factor is high,
Right.
such as Journal of Thoracic Oncology. So
Yep.
I'll make a show. Yeah. And there are 3 types of a review article. And states of art reviews, perspective, review article. But I think the number 7 would be proper.
Yeah.
Number 7.
Mm-hmm.
Okay then.
Is it the word count's okay? 2000.
I need a little bit cut it down, but I can make it. No problem.
Okay.
And the 3rd project will be brief communication. I didn't start it yet, but I have all of the data ready, so it would be easy to make it.
Hmm.
And about ctDNA study, the predecessor told me that their timeline would be completed by 2nd week of February.
Hmm.
So if I get the result, and well, I talked to Sujung, who is a medical oncologist in my hospital,
Hmm.
and she arrived at Korea now, and she said they it would be go very naturally. She thinks that we can make this,
Hmm.
so there's no problem. And yeah, yesterday she called me and we talked a lot. But well, at least I will transfer this study to medical oncologist, but still we're one team, so we can make it.
Hmm.
But this subject is really appropriate to medical oncologists, not surgical oncologists. That is my opinion. Well, transplantation is more interesting for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that subject. Yeah. And about another project suggested by Professor Anki yesterday.
Mhm.
I think you saw the email.
Yeah.
And Professor Anki asked us to get some data about COVID-19, but the problem is indication. We can't distinguish. I want to show this data.
Hmm.
This is indication, that's lung disease. But when you look at this, there are specific disease, but we can't find the COVID-19.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. How about, so what about the date the transplant was performed?
Only we have a year.
Oh, only a year. So what's the range of this year?
(2000 to 2018).
Oh, just 18?
Yeah.
COVID-19 happened there.
Yes. Yes. That's the problem.
That's the problem.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. Yes.
So why was there a rule they couldn't give you 1920?
Oh, I'm not sure, but initially they told me they will provide only 2000 to 2018. I don't know, they're still handling the data,
Oh,
recent current one. I'm
okay.
not sure.
So let's ask them
Mhm.
that we want 19, 20, 21,
Mhm.
and 22 now, we're 23. So
Yeah,
just ask
okay.
if that's, and then just say, I think Dr. Anke wants to see how the volume changed and how, outcome changed, anything
Mhm.
during COVID and after COVID. And
Mhm.
not the indication. They already wrote paper on COVID-19 indication. But yeah, just like any change in trend, volume, volume will probably go down, like all,
Mhm.
you just want to show that. So if they said, no, those data cannot be released by
Mhm.
something, and there's no point of doing the Zoom call, I would say, we were told that they cannot release 19, 20, or they will release the data, maybe it will take time. Then once that data is released, then you can have a Zoom meeting. Yeah, I think
Mhm.
it's a very interesting question. Like, how did the lung transplant change during COVID?
Mhm.
It's more of an epidemiology study. It's not, yeah. So yeah, I think so. I don't have to be in that meeting. I think you could kind of show Dr. Boratsky the data structure and what we can do with the data. And you could be part of it, but I think that there's Dr. Ku, what's his name? It's a Japanese name, right? He's a junior faculty. And
Chitaru.
Chitaro, yeah. So I think your role is sort of orient him, like this is how the data looks, and and share the data with him so he can do the analysis himself. So this is not about cancer.
Yeah.
So we don't have to do the analysis for them. We can kind of train him to, like, this is how you do the analysis, and look at this question, and so we're
One
more
thing I'm worrying is, can we use this data for other subject? And at least if Professor Ankit want to use this data, then the manuscript should be reviewed by international team.
Yes, so that's the part of the orientation. So
Okay.
so you can look at it initially,
tell
like if you want to publish it, you have to request it directly to them,
Mhm.
get it from them,
Mhm.
and you just tell them how to do it, and the whole process, so that they can do it themselves.
Yes.
But at least, because if we get the data, we will know if the trend is, we can kind of get the preliminary data,
Mhm.
which will help them a lot. So, but I think the formal process has to be, proposal and get the data, and then do the analysis themselves. Dr. Enki might ask for help, and we can help them as much as they need. But I think the email is saying they will do all the analysis. We're just going to help them orient the data. Yes, but we can still be like their consultant throughout this. But they're not looking at cancer, so I don't think we should help them write it, because it's not a cancer paper. Okay, that's good. Anything else?
This is all I have. Thank you, Dr.
Okay.
Dr. Che, just going back to Dr. Jian's question about like using the data set for a different project. Did they require a IRB approval for our study?
I mean, our IRB is only involved if we use our patient data.
True.
It has nothing to do with Northwestern patients. So I don't think our IRB has anything to do with it.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if like Dr. Barat will need a separate IRB for this new project.
So Jian, for us to get this data, were there any IRB involved?
No, because this was a review article. Actually, the IRB was not necessary,
Hmm.
but about original article, I think we can use the IRB that the Liam already got permission, got
But that
approval.
IRB is for Northwestern.
Yeah,
IRB.
at least we included our cases
Mhm.
for
Oh, yeah.
our original.
For case reports, we can use that.
Yeah.
But for the international registry data, I don't know if you can, well, you can ask the registry admin, do we need to mention any IRB for patient, the identified data you sent us? Because only thing IRB is gonna say is this is IRB exempt because it's all de-identified. That's all they're gonna say, but still, if you want to write, IRB, there may be an IRB linked with this registry. So we can ask that question.
And so when we're getting the data set from the international and UNOS registry, like they didn't ask us for an IRB, right?
No, initially they asked, but I told them that because this is a review article, the IRB process, no need.
I think we're fine. And for case reports, we can use our long retrospective study IRB. But you can ask the registry people if there's any IRB linked with their de-identified data set. That's enough. Okay, anything else? Jian,
Yeah.
the ctDNA dynamics, and so keep reviewing
Mhm.
literature, and maybe present the most relevant ones maybe next time, and so that we're ready when the data comes out, and kind of familiarize ourselves with the literature up to date.
Okay.
Yeah, like how many points, like how did they describe the dynamics? Some would just say, like we looked at it before, some would say disappearance, or some would say just any negative slope. There's different ways to analyze it. So let's see what others have done and what are the most cited, most
Mhm. Mhm.
high impact journals that published it. UPenn, there's a lung medical oncologist who built her career based on just ctDNA dynamics, concordance, and all that. Her name is Charu Argawal. UPenn, you just go to UPenn Medical Oncology. She did MPH, I think. She's building her career just like ctDNA dynamics. So I would suggest read her papers.
Okay.
And present whatever is relevant next meeting.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Okay, very good. We'll go to Hesong. You give us update, Hesong? Can you hear, Hesong? Do you have update? Hesong?
Yeah, I wrote the discussion section for the DART trial with small cell carcinoma of the ovary hypercalcemic type cohort. Can you read this, or should I share the link with you?
Yeah, I can read it. Oh, so you wrote the manuscript, or is it discussion?
So at first I showed you the introduction, and
Yeah.
then I wrote the discussion. The results aren't like fully available, so it's not perfect yet. But I mean, since all the core results are in the abstract, I just kind of wrote the discussion out as that.
I see. So the first one, so the chemo, so median PFS 6.5, 14, PFS 1.8, 24, may improve. I think it's the last sentence I just read, I would focus on. So because we only have 5 patients, just saying PFS
Yeah.
1.8 doesn't really mean much. It's kind of random and luck, or bad luck, or
Yeah.
good luck. But
That's true.
I think just highlighting that some did really well.
Yeah. Okay.
Just saying, it just shows that it's a very challenging, aggressive cancer. Even with the most, even with the most aggressive top combinatorial therapy, um, but then I guess you can use word promising to see few patients did really well in our
Mhm.
something like that. You don't, I think the
Yeah, reading back, I think, yeah. Yeah, that's a good
yeah.
point.
Okay, a few cases tonight. One patient, 14. Obvious community. And yeah, so they're different microenvironments. I would take out the NTPD if I call, take out the called and just comma, it's fine. Combine with
Mhm.
partial remission. Is it partial response? There's no
I think
partial.
that's what they meant. Yeah,
They wrote partial
but I
remission.
can check again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in the trial they wrote partial remission, but I think what the PR is what they
Yeah.
meant.
Partial remission is not like a scientific word, but if that's
I
what they
see.
use, it's we're kind of forced to use that because we don't know what exactly that means.
I see.
Partial response is like resist like 30%, decrease.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But the remission is usually cancer is in remission means like it's gone. I don't know what partial remission means.
I see.
However, yeah, so I like that paragraph. So no tangible benefit. So monotherapy didn't do much. LDH1. It was tested, but I guess the last study was withdrawn. What about the first LSD one? Oh, this is
Yeah.
combination. This is just combination.
Oh, so the clinical trial based on the preclinical evidence was withdrawn.
Oh. Okay, I mean, there's so, I guess, limited amount of data that it's usually
Yeah.
you have to write what's withdrawn because it's
Oh, I see. Yeah,
but
that's what I thought too.
do you know why it was withdrawn or just the fact it's withdrawn?
Oh, just yeah, it just said like the pharmaceutical company no longer offered support. I just thought this preclinical evidence was interesting because, well, this study like tried to tie in, whatever they found by adding like pembrolizumab and see if that has any like better response in human subjects. So I thought it was like meaningful to add in that regard. But yeah, since there were so little clinical trials to even like talk about, I just put it there. So interestingly, in this study, in the preclinical like study, they also included like 4 patients and gave them this LSD1 inhibitor with pembrolizumab, but that wasn't like IRB approved. But they still talked about it in the paper and said they were the 4 patients experienced some response. But I couldn't talk about that here because it wasn't like exactly IRB approved. So that's why I thought, there is a trial that had attempted to actually study this combination in human subjects, but was withdrawn. So let's hope that, it's gonna come back.
So I didn't understand the 4 patient IRB. Can you explain that again?
Yeah, so this study, like the main research was, it was showing like preclinical evidence for this combination in mice model. But in addition to that, they studied this combination in 4 human subjects. But that they only talked, but that 4 patient project wasn't IRB approved. So they only mentioned it briefly and said these patients had response. But for my paper, I didn't think I should include it because it wasn't IRB approved. Yeah, I don't know. If you don't like this, I could just take it out.
Do you have limits on like the word count or?
I actually haven't looked it up. It's AACR, right?
Did we decide on the journal? Liam, did we decide on the journal or no?
I don't think so, but so far we've just as a rule of thumb, we've been going with CCR.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go to CCR. Anyway, let's keep it for now. If
Okay.
the word count becomes a problem, then you can take it out. Because it's
Okay.
yeah. Okay, the next paragraph. So combination, you said higher mortality. I would take that out. Greater toxicity, just mortality sounds really, ominous. I mean, it can, but it's not a big difference.
Mhm.
And you discuss vitality. So again, I mean that the first that paragraph pertains to any DART study. Right?
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
don't know if this is the right place to put this because this is just 5-patient article, and to talk about that mortality difference in meta-analysis is I think just one sentence that it could be more could
I see.
lead to more, greater toxicity is good enough. I don't think we
Okay.
need a, dedicated paragraph for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there were 2 instances of grade 3-4 events. So here's the thing. So this is same for all the other manuscript you guys are working on. Details on like a number itself presenting it, it has to happen only in the results section. You don't have to repeat it in the discussion.
Oh,
Unless you rephrase it in a different way and is relative, you have to mention that to sort of lead your discussion. You know what I
so
mean?
you mean
That
like this?
whole
This-
paragraph reads like result section.
Yeah.
It's not it's not comparing it to anything. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So
Mhm.
I feel like you could say no death is well tolerated and it's very on par with the previous published, toxicity outcome. And you can reference any toxicity review paper to say what's published.
Yeah.
So developing prognostic and predictive biomarker to selectively administer is crucial. The FDA approved. Maybe less helpful as it is a few. However, one study none that described promising tumor uncoupling mutation burden in the study PD-L1 expression. What is it 9 to 287? That's a big range.
I thought it's true.
Maybe double check that. And T-cell, same thing. In 10 of 11 cases. I would say the 10, just write that in number. So 11 is number. So I don't think you have to write that high power field numbers. I think you can just take all
Okay.
that out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and then the potential, they are all potential. So that's rather little strong. You have to say they can be explored as potential biomarkers.
Mm.
Because we're still exploring. We're not so sure if this is because we're talking about 11 patients data, and then we have 5 patient data, and there's not like
Wow.
200 data.
I got too excited.
So when you're in doubt, it's always good to just soften your tone, euphemize, and maybe, can be, you know.
Mhm. Yeah.
Our ability to address unmet need. Able to. So this is the strength of the DART study, but
Mm.
I mean, it's good, but and just say, because with all these resource and support, we were able to recruit or enroll patient with very tumors with very low incidence, like
Mm.
this tumor type. So that's the strength. Like, you know, normally it's hard to recruit these patients.
Mm. Mhm.
Ultra rare. So is this the first Nivo EP data out there? There's no other?
No, not that I remember. No, this is all
Yeah,
like few cases reports and few trials.
so first Nivo EP, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think this is good enough. The first Nivo EP data, and so can you go to the abstract? Results. Okay, so from 5, we have 1 CR, 1 unconfirmed PR, confirmed ICR, and has OS. So I guess I'll propose that we have, because these 2 patients are good. The other one. So how did the third patient do? CR and unconfirmed PR.
I think it's just these two patients, like one with CR and one who initially had unconfirmed PR, now having confirmed IPR.
The other patient was stable disease or progression?
Oh, um,
Also,
yeah, that wasn't clear. And then I just said one patient remains progression free, but I'm not, we can't be sure if it's.
So that was the way we phrased the PFS and OS, like the 1-year PFS and 1-year OS.
I see. So is there the swimmers plot?
We have it, yes.
Can you show me?
I'll have to find it. Give me one moment.
Oh, so Haesung, you didn't write the results?
Oh, well,
She's
'cause I-
showing the app. And
Hmm.
yeah, so like this, currently we're looking at the abstract. The results I was going to write out because like I have the rest of the detailed results
Right,
that I
right,
probably
right.
have to write out anyways.
Okay.
So.
But show me the swimmer plot, so.
Yep. Give me 1 minute while I pull up the email.
Yeah. So I think it's good to mention disease control rate. If the stable disease lasted more than 6 months. Now this is a manuscript. We have more room than the poster abstract. Because it's only 5, I think in the results, you just have to mention how one individual patients did. Of course, you'll refer to those table and graphs.
Mhm.
But anyway, so if 5 out of 2 patients did really well, that's still 40% doing really well. That itself deserves to be cited in NCCN guideline because such a rare tumor. So, Hansong, did you find the New York Times article about this cancer? If you Google New York Times and hypercalcemic ovarian, one patient received Nivo and got CR, and she's cured. So her story got into New York Times article. I don't know if this was cited in an article. You see, that thing, worked. Yeah.
No, I think it's this one.
She's very young. How old is she? Dr. Drew Padal.
Mhm.
'28.
18,
Psychology.
28, yeah.
And then we'd say she has
Immediately her tumor shrunk.
immediately tumor shrank, continued shrinking as she continued with the drug, so much that her doctor now says she has no evidence of disease. Life has returned to normal. Just a single Nivo. I don't know if this was published.
I'll look it up. How do you remember everything like this?
Yeah. So this is based on this article. We added this cohort into the DART.
Oh,
That's
wow.
it's an evolving trial. So lesson for you guys is use Google too. Scholar, but Google can pick up like news articles and other things that is really like all public may know, like
Yeah.
so maybe Drew Padal and it's a Hopkins group. So maybe you can search those authors.
We're doing a similar trial.
Yeah. So ovarian cancer, Hopkins led and
Dr. Chai, I pulled up the results.
yeah. Maybe show,
Do you know if I share the screen?
yeah, show me.
Yeah.
Just for a little bit. Yeah, thank you. So this is the swimmer's plot based on RECIST. So this is the only one patient that had the confirmed CR. All the other patients, didn't have any response or clinical benefit at 6 months. And then we have a second swimmer's plot using iRECIST. So this time around, the unconfirmed PR patient gets picked up as ICR. And so that patient is over here.
I see. So if we do ICR, then both of them are ongoing.
Mhm.
But did the treatment stop, or is it treatment's ongoing as well for both?
I assume it's ongoing.
Yeah. So I think we should emphasize that both patients ongoing with confirmed ICR. I would say CR is ICR included. So I would say there's a objective response rate of 40%, with both of them ongoing responses over 30 months. I would just emphasize that unconfirmed PR was actually confirmed CR with iRECIST, ICR with iRECIST. And per iRECIST, the objective response rate is 40% with duration of response ongoing over something, averaging the duration response. So that's kind of the punchline. Yeah, I would emphasize that in the abstract as well as in the discussion, that this is like very promising, that 2 out of 5 showed a very good response. And the reason why it was unconfirmed PR or PFS is that the new lesion is going to count as progression, but the new lesion would come up as a pseudo progression. But as long as they stay stable, confirmed, with iRECIST, it is stable disease. It is still CR. So maybe look into this case and describe it more in depth when you write results, Liam. Like, what did the RECIST actually show? And you can ask that data for Megan, like because we can be really specific about describe. It's almost like 5 case report, but it's almost like 2 case report. The other, really didn't respond. But then I think people would like to know how these 2 patients did. So I would maybe, okay, Liam, maybe work with me so that I can get access to the Rave, that system. I had it before. Somehow I cannot access it anymore. So we'll figure out a way to get access so that way we can have access to every clinical thing, scan results and all that, all a detailed measurement of everything. Let's work on that once we're done with this meeting. But also in the meantime, if it's just technical glitch, but we can ask Megan or Christine to send the CT scan report of baseline, and the second to see, after treatment, what lesion became new. So, that maybe there's a new liver lesion, and then made it PF, but the liver lesion might, with second scan, disappear. So we could kind of describe those 2 cases, what actually happened, by looking at the CT scans. It's like a case report. But this is revolutionary, and this is something that can change standard of care. So it's our duty to describe each case more in detail, what actually happened to each lesion and all that. And someone like that psychologist, Nivo is all they need, but adding Ipi might add much value to it. We don't know. So that's another discussion point, has on whether Nivo is adding value or not. It has to be validated with larger cohort studies or something like that. But
Yeah, definitely. I'll look into it. I have another discussion I wrote. Should I show it to you?
Oh, yeah, and then the fifth patient, Liam, do we know when we're getting the data?
The sixth patient, we do not. So it should be coming in soon.
But the registration date is, you know,
Like
so-
July of last year. So
so
last time they said like in a month or two they should be getting like their first results in.
okay. So follow up, I think we should have it soon, very soon.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay.
ask Megan then. And so I know you have a few more, right? So let's take a break. 10-minute break and we'll return. All right, let's resume. I think you're muted.
Yeah. Do you want to see the next one?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, this one is for the clear cell gynecologic cancers. Last time I showed you the introduction. And then now is the discussion part.
So again, I think a lot of it is results,
Mm, mhm.
not discussion. So discussion is you don't, yeah, I get the same comments. Yeah, so you don't have to rewrite what's written in the results,
Mm, mhm.
and you can kind of say,
It
Uh,
showed like objective response, this kind of very broad thing.
yeah, the objective response. But yeah, so the other thing is for the same thing, unconfirmed PR, what happened to this case? So Liam, this is you between you and Megan, like why was it unconfirmed? And I guess ask Megan if we ever did IR resist for this cohort, and if at least for this patient, whether we could do I resist for this unconfirmed PR. So that we could make same argument as we did for the hypercalcemic cohort. So I guess there were 134. Is that just a clear cell cohort with,
Yes. It just underwent like surgery, chemotherapy, and radiotherapy.
so median PFS of 12 and 3.3? Or
For the recurrence and refractory group.
so I would say put the recurrence and refractory first, because like if you just
Yeah, it's
the 12 and
confused.
3.3, you don't know what that is.
Okay.
So PFS for what is recurrence group and what, I mean, I understand refractory group, then no there. What is recurrence group?
I'll look up the definition again. Yeah, that kind of differs whether it's after first line or second line. I'm guessing it's like after remission, recurrent.
So that's called recurrence-free survival.
Mm, mm.
So recurrence-free survival is for surgical patients. The local therapy got rid of all the cancer, but they recurred later. You don't use that for chemotherapy.
Mm.
So it's a little confusing to use
That's
PFS.
what they said on the paper though.
But just read to see what they actually did.
Okay.
And if you have a question, you can ask Dr. Jian.
Okay.
But anyway, compared to their number, is our number better? So I think you should not, my recommendations, don't do the recurrence group. The survival 41 month, I think I feel like that's the surgical group, recurrence.
Mm.
So this is all metastatic case refractory, so only mention the refractory case.
Okay.
So at least our data is comparable or a little better.
Mm.
Also in here, refractory group, you have to say what they received. So as I said, in this analysis, what are the therapies they used? Because that's important.
Yeah.
Trials have proliferated. I don't know if the proliferate is a good word for that. I've seen some people
Emerged.
have
Emerged.
enriched.
Have rapidly emerged.
I see you have increased. The number of clinical trials evaluating have increased. So results are that 20 patients platinum resistant Nivo overall response of 15%. 2 patients achieved CR. The Pembro was tested, response rate very similar, 15%. And then you have Durva-Tremi, and then Nivo-AP. They're all ongoing. And there's no results.
No.
So one randomized, one single arm, one randomized. So I just want to understand how you structure this, and it's like a
So there are two phase 2 trials of Durva plus Tremi, but one of them is single arm, the other is randomized. And then is another phase 2 trial of nivolumab and ipi.
And is that plus minus means there's 2 arms, Nivo and combo?
Yeah, it's randomized. So one arm is nivo and the other is combo.
I would say randomized phase 2, Nivo versus Nivo-AP. I would write
Okay.
it that way so that people. So same thing with the Durva-Tremi. What are you randomizing, Durva versus Durva-Tremi?
Oh, right. I'll look that up.
And you've checked, there's no abstracts, nothing?
No, I checked.
Okay. And this one case, BRCA mutation. And was there any interim result? No, no
Oh,
result,
you mean this one, like the cases that have these mutations?
huh?
Oh,
The results meaning
Uh,
response result. Did you see any result or no?
I will. Actually, these are ongoing trials, but yeah, I'll look that up once again. But I was just making the point that that's the minority of these cases, that only very few OCCC cases have this mutation. So I was saying, the wild type cases won't respond to PARP inhibitors.
So these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trials are all types of ovarian cancer trials? Or
Yeah,
clear-
these are BRCA1/2 mutated endometrial cancer trial. Oh, sorry, ovarian. Just ovarian.
ovarian trials.
Mhm.
Do you know if all 5 of them included clear cell?
I think that's why I included it. Yeah.
They all-
Well, so it was just I'll check that again. Actually, that's how I understood it. But yeah, I'll check that again. Yeah. I think that's what I said here. That they did include the ovarian clear cell cases, but only the ones with BRCA1/2 mutation.
So what's not clear is, are all 5 trials have the
Okay,
same
yeah.
criteria that clear cell with BRCA should be? So if the eligibility is not clear, that clear cell is their interest, and it, clear cell is one of the, or what, and if they're just having ovarian cancer with BRCA mutation,
Mhm.
that does not need to be discussed here.
Oh,
The
okay.
trial has to be very clear cell specific.
Okay.
Otherwise, it does not deserve space here.
Okay. Yeah, it's already
It's
too
like
much.
you could write about ovarian cancer. There's so many trials.
Yeah, there's so many.
Yeah, so you have to focus on clear cell trials.
Yeah.
I assume there's not many, but if let's say, so if there's ovarian cancer trial that reported a case of response in clear cell, then you can mention it. It's okay.
Yep. Mhm.
But if it's an ongoing trial, you don't have to mention it, like, because there's no results. If it's clear cell only trial, you can mention it as an ongoing trial.
Okay.
But BRCA ovarian trial, you don't have to mention it.
Okay.
And then CAR-T has shown robust activity. So in vivo. So what do you mean? Was it mouse model or what was it?
I believe it was mouse model. I will check once again.
Yeah, so if it's mouse model, write mouse model. Okay. So immune suppressive microenvironment. Unlike MSS, MMR deficient characterized by this. Consider relationship between. So. So PD-L1 expression and MMR deficiency occurs in. Okay. Okay, I think it's okay.
So that was for ovarian and now it's endometrial.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, I think you can. Yeah, more. Yeah, the numbers are, like I said, were result, but here you
Yeah, I see.
and how many had good, durable response, more than, rephrase it differently.
Mhm.
So you're using the term MMR deficient, but MSI high. So is it, or what is the MSI microsatellite
Instability.
Huh.
environment.
Oh, you don't have to use that both. Just use MMRD. You can take out the MS down.
You'll take this one out too.
No,
That's
that
stable.
MMR proficient. It's same. So I would just
Yeah.
use one. You don't have to use both at the same time. No, just be consistent. If you're using M, and then this is MRRU, MMR. I would just use, because you used MMR more frequently.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, just be consistent.
Okay.
MMRP, MMRD is what you're, and then once you used upfront, you don't have to keep using it. If the first time you're using it, just you can use it. So can you explain chemotherapy? MMRD is least responsive to chemo, MMRD? That
MMRD, yeah. According to this trial.
That's very interesting. Hmm. That's very interesting. I never thought it that way. So we know mismatch repair deficient are usually so I guess it makes sense. So for hmm. Okay. So yeah, I think so for all of you, lung cancer, if you're a smoker, you have more mutation. They are less likely to respond to chemo because they have so many mutations.
Mhm.
But smokers, because of more mutation, they have more neoantigens. They respond much better to immunotherapy. I guess same is true. Mismatch repair deficient, more mutation makes them more refractory to chemo, but makes it more susceptible for immunotherapy because of more increased likelihood of a potent neoantigens. Okay. So what are you trying to argue here?
That we can't directly compare these two results. We need to further stratify our data by the prognostic molecular subgroups, because some subgroups don't need to be treated with any additional therapy, where some groups do.
But did you say that here?
Sort of. I said further stratification data. Yeah.
May be helpful comparing these results. Molecular subgroups of CC.
I mean, also because it seems like we had worse outcomes compared to therapy.
Okay, let's leave it. FDA, Pembro. Okay. However, the results from Keynote. Pembro. So what is study 111? Is there another name?
I think it's the same study. I wasn't sure if I should include it or not, but it just means the same study, so I guess I'll just do it.
Yeah, then you can delete it. I would use the word trial than study here, 146. So 775 was only MSS trial? And
Yes.
146, they looked at both.
Yes.
So at least this trial had 6 clear cells.
Yes.
Do we know any result from that 6? No.
Not separately, no.
Oh, okay. But the Cabo trial reported clear cell separately?
Yes. 5. Yeah.
Okay, separately. Okay. So how does that compare to our trial? 5 months, 25%. What's better?
Oh, actually.
Because we didn't have response, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, this is not separate. There was one trial.
So if this is general endometrial,
Well, the study included 5 patients, but only gave us like the overall outcome measures.
Then just say it out that the overall cohort reported, and then there's
Okay.
no and you can say, I mean, you don't have to say anything. I think if you say the overall cohort of all, I guess, yeah.
From what I remember, sorry, I did so much research. I can't remember exactly, but a lot of these trials, especially for the endometrial and cervical, they didn't have any like separate data just for this cohort. They just did general like refractory endometrial cancer and refractory cervical cancer.
So this Nivo IP trial is not DART.
No, another one. It's just currently ongoing, but this one is different in that it's a randomized trial.
Combination
And
Nivo.
then it includes like all MMRD endometrial cancer, and the clear cell is only just one of them.
specifically designed. I would not use designed here. I mean, you can argue Dart has many cohort and Dart has one cohort clear cell, and maybe the other trials have many different cohorts with different.
Mm,
So it's hard to make that distinction.
mm.
I guess we don't have to say that. I mean, our trial is the clear cell. So. So that's okay. Let's go to clear cell, cervical. Have the results. Usual care is colloquial, standard care, standard care.
Can we say that? Because they don't really have like a standardized guideline. That's why I avoided the word standard.
There's no guideline for.
No, not for this histology.
Would you say there is no standard care then?
There is none, no.
So most chemo would be refractory?
It doesn't, no, it doesn't seem like it. I mean, but they have a good PFS in the OR overall for the, especially for the early disease.
Early disease?
Yeah,
if-
for the early,
advanced. So for advanced disease, there is no standard care systemic therapy. Period.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so you just have to write that. So I would not write early stage. If you have, because we only included advanced stage
Mm.
patients here.
Oh,
we don't
okay.
have
Yeah,
to-
that was also not what I wasn't sure about. Okay, so I'll take this out.
Yeah, so no need to write early stage outcome. If you
Okay.
find statistics on advanced stage,
Yeah.
receiving systemic chemotherapy only, you can write that and compare to our data.
Okay.
And then you can mention, according to the literature, there is no standard care systemic therapy that is established for clear cell. For I would say, I don't know if the cervical cancer NCCN guideline, I don't know what it says for clear cell. Does it say anything
I
They might-
actually couldn't find it.
under cervical cancer?
No,
Did you look?
I did.
But there was no cervical cancer?
Like for clear cell histology specifically.
Oh, there was no mention of clear cell?
No, I personally didn't see it.
Okay, let's look for it then. I'll show you. So maybe let me share screen.
Yeah.
So cervical. There's neuroendocrine here, but He did not even mention it.
Mhm.
That is so interesting. That's so interesting.
That's how rare it is.
That's how rare it is. They ignored it here. Huh.
Also, how can is it possible to borrow your login information? Because I had to download this like illegally. I don't know how to access this, the guideline.
Oh. Liam, can you share yours? You have access, right?
To the NCCN guidelines.
Yeah.
I haven't tried, but I can try.
So so the access goes to anyone with the northwestern.edu email. So you can register if you
Okay.
have the edu account.
All right, then I can sign up for
And
it.
then just share that with Haesung.
Okay.
Because Haesung, I can't remember my password. I can't.
Oh, that's a problem. Okay,
It's stored in my computer, but I have to
Yeah.
find it. So
for sure.
and yeah, Liam, free to share that with lab members. NCCN guideline is important. Yeah, so clear cell is not even mentioned, but I would say people treat this same thing. Even if they're clear cell, they'll probably receive the same
Yeah, that's
therapy because it's not
yeah,
mentioned.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's a lot of studies said that. Yeah.
Yeah. So preferred regimen is Pembro, Taxol plus minus Bev. And this is only for PD-L1 positive. But you can do other things. And then TMB high, Pembro only, or MSI high. Or PD-L1 positive. There's this tisotumab vedotin. This is an antibody drug conjugate. And then you have all these old drugs here. So I guess it's a little bit of fetch to say there's no standard of care because it's not even mentioned, and
Mm.
people are going to assume that whether it's clear cell, non-clear cell, they're gonna receive this. So you can say there's no. I don't know if you find clear cell cervical review paper or anything about it. Any like outcome for that histology. If you can't find anything about it, it's so rare to say there's no literature describing the natural history or response to certain cervical cancer regimens for this subtype. If you find it, describe it. If you don't find it, there's no literature to support how they do.
No, this is the one I mentioned here in my discussion. That one was sort of like a mini review of clear cell cervical, and that's what.
But
And
that
then they
has
say,
an advanced. Does that have advanced stage and response to different chemo? I'm sure there's surgical papers, but
I'll have to look it up, like exactly what regimen they received, but it just said, yeah, I'll check again.
okay. Yeah. Show me the rest. Amount of data regarding the role of immunotherapy in severely limited. So this is Pembro. Cervical clear cell?
Yeah.
How many patients?
Clear cell gynecological cancer that, and only 2.1% was clear cell cervical.
Oh, did you describe this patient for ovarian, this
Ooh,
trial?
I wonder if I did.
Because if it's clear gyne, I assume a lot
Yeah,
of it is
it should.
ovarian.
Yeah. Ovarian endometrium.
Yeah, so you should discuss that.
Okay.
But in this trial, did they report separately what this cervical cord did, or is it all added together?
Yeah, from what I remember, it was added together. Because if it was separate, I would have mentioned it,
I see.
but I can check again. Because it was only 48 in total, so I think that they only took the overall.
48 is a lot. How many are our patients all combined?
So we have 5 cervical, that's in the abstract. Yeah, so 19, 8, 5,
Okay,
31.
okay, 32. So, but instead of Nivo, maybe they all got Pembro, just monotherapy. Okay.
Mhm.
Hmm. So it's interesting that they combined all,
Mm.
right? And just says clear cell gynecologic cancer. Well, I mean, we are reporting it because they're very different in biology. We're reporting it differently. I think they should have done it. You can look at the paper more thoroughly. If they did, then you should do that. If they just lump them all together, what I would do is before you go to each cancer, cervical, endometrial, I would say just add one paragraph before you go to each and say if we lump everything together,
Mhm.
32 patients had the response rate of this and that, all that, and this compares to the Peacock trial, which reported, all clear cell, all lumped together of response rate of this, and that. Do you understand? Because we can't
Yeah.
compare each cohorts, then you have to lump ours to compare to their trial.
Mhm.
I want that to come before you discuss each anatomic cancers.
Mhm.
That makes sense?
Yep.
But if you find the breakdown, then you should just do it with every paragraph.
Mm.
Okay. Oncolytic virus.
This one.
So in the virus particles, 7 fraction, these are too much detail. You don't need them.
Mm.
People who are interested can go to your citation. For these things, you need to put citation, everything you're mentioning.
Yeah, this is all. It's gonna be cited.
Okay, you're gonna put it later, okay.
Yeah.
So those are too much detail. You can take those out. And if you could say for chemotherapy, you could say brachytherapy with cisplatin and paclitaxel or something. You can be that much detail.
Okay.
People want to know what chemo.
Okay. And just shorten everything. Right? Should I just take this out? Right?
So what is oncorin?
That's the oncolytic virus.
Then you have to say it. I know you said oncolytic virus, but you didn't say oncorin was the injection of a oncolytic virus, oncorin.
Yeah, I think just gonna take it.
Just shorten it, followed by, chemo and radiation. And I would use the word chemoradiation rather than radiochemotherapy. Chemoradiation. So you said our study suggests efficacy. You say it suggests efficacy means it's working. But it's not working. You know what I mean? Efficacy has a positive connotation. So I would not write that.
Suggest the
Our
potential
study,
for the potential.
our study is the first to suggest. I'll just take that out because we didn't show much activity in cervical, right?
Yeah, true.
Once is a patient without any known biomarker. So this was a case report.
Yes.
Okay, that's okay. 3 courts combined, I'll use. Okay, this is the side effects.
Maybe
I guess this is
less
also
numbers.
results material, not
Yeah, less numbers.
unless you comment that their rate is not different from, same argument that published toxicity articles.
Mm.
So the major limitation here is we discussed so much about biomarker, PD-L1, MMRD.
Yeah.
We do not have any of the biomarker results. We can say the biomarker efforts, exploration efforts are ongoing.
Yep.
Uh,
There's that. Oh wait. That's
Ongoing, partially further.
just-
But yeah. That biomarker results are not available. It has to be just mentioned as a major limitation. Not available at this point.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned it here, but just be more clear, I guess, not available.
But that's just the endometrial cohort. But for ovarian and cervical, all these biomarker still important. Maybe and the molecular characterization is especially of importance in endometrial cancer. But biomarker is not available for all cohorts, so that's that. I guess the CBR for endometrial cervical cohorts do not need to be mentioned in the last sentence. So we just want to highlight what's Yeah, ORR, few durable CRs. And I would argue work with Liam to see if we can for clear cell ovary. There's
Yeah.
there's some unconfirmed PR. So let's study how they did.
Yeah.
And also for manuscript, just like for those unconfirmed case, let's study, what they did in IRIS. Let's see if we can do IRIS. If we cannot do IRIS, then what we can do is at least for the unconfirmed case, we can get the CT scan reports and sort of kind of retrospectively figure out what happened. And if there's a new lesion, what was the reason for response not confirmed? Was it new lesion? Was it patient expired? What's the reason? And then would IRIS make any difference? So let's explore that. Okay, very good. Very good. Anything else?
Yeah, no, not really. Everything else I'm just waiting.
I think you had 2 topics you were going to present last.
You remember? Yeah. I have the PARP inhibitors and then the UVB melanoma one.
Yeah. So why don't you briefly show us what you prepared?
Both.
Yeah, because we have time. We usually run out of time.
Yeah, I don't know which one would you prefer, because the UVB one is very dense, and I wasn't sure how to summarize it. Yeah, it was very dense and difficult to understand, but
Really? So
would you just like me to do just the abstract, or do you want me to go through the whole thing?
I'll do the whole thing so that people understand.
Okay. Would you like me to start with this or the PARP?
You can start with this. Fine. So we did a journal club with this paper before. We're revisiting it because we're now delving into tumor heterogeneity, and I think this is the one of the most important paper. In terms of, so why are we interested in tumor heterogeneity? A very simple concept. The more diverse the clone is, it's just going to be, you're just going to have more clone that is resistant to any therapy. So heterogeneity means it's bad for any therapy. Now, what does it mean in terms of immunotherapy response? And this group is the first one to explore that with preclinical model. So yeah, with that, let's discuss this article.
Sure. Yeah, this is a very, very exciting preclinical research that was published on Cell in 2019. It's called UVB-induced tumor heterogeneity diminishes immune response in melanoma. This study forms the basis of my own project that aims to propose a subclonality index called the THI, Tumor Heterogeneity Index, as a new biomarker for quantifying intratumor heterogeneity. Here, the authors studied syngeneic mouse models of melanoma and human patient data to explore the effect of intratumor heterogeneity on immune response. Most importantly, they demonstrated that heterogeneity predicts immunotherapy outcomes better than TMB, tumor mutational burden, which is a biomarker that was recently FDA approved for administering anti-PD-1 therapy for advanced solid tumors. This graphical abstract here on the left really nicely summarizes the work. Using mouse models of melanoma, they first created a heterogeneous cell line by UVB irradiation, which induced a bunch of mutations. They let it grow into a tumor, which resulted in a highly aggressive tumor with decreased anti-tumor activity. Next, they created single cell derived tumors where they separated a single cell from the heterogeneous melanoma cell line and allowed it to grow into its own tumor. The level of heterogeneity was low in single cell derived tumors, so they were swiftly rejected. In other words, the UVB irradiated highly heterogeneous tumor induced low anti-tumor activity, whereas single cell derived tumors with low tumor heterogeneity induced high anti-tumor activity. And using phylogenetic analysis and mixing experiments of single cell clones, the authors were able to dissect two characteristics of intratumor heterogeneity. First, the number of clones forming the tumor, and two, their clonal diversity. They found in both mouse model and patient data that the more heterogeneous a tumor is, the less immune response it induces, and the less likely it is for patients to survive long periods of time, and the less response to immunotherapy. So to summarize, the authors argue that intratumor heterogeneity needs to be quantified to determine the response to checkpoint blockade. Going into the details, first, the authors gathered patient data to show how intratumor heterogeneity levels correlate with melanoma patient survival. They analyzed a cohort of 402 untreated TCGA melanoma patients. The patients were grouped based on their mutational load, copy number variation, and intratumor heterogeneity, which was estimated as the number of clones. Here, as in A and B, neither mutational load nor copy number variation load was significantly associated with patient survival. However, patients with low intratumor heterogeneity had significantly better survival consistent with previous observations. When
So,
patients,
so,
yeah.
we're going to repeat this exactly with our Guardant and
Guardant and
Tempus
Tempus.
data. And the way they calculated ITHC should be clear from their methods. So use their method, but also use our own methods, you know, the ones that Stas uses to get the PyClones. But there are a number of different ways to calculate ITHC according to the published literature. So look what they are and try to apply them to our own Guardant and Tempus data set. Okay, but this is very interesting because we would argue that, well, TMB is very important, but these are melanoma patients received immunotherapy, or are they surgical patients? I didn't get that. Do you know?
No, these were untreated TCGA
Oh,
patients.
untreated. So even at untreated level, ITH is very important. Yeah.
Yeah. I think what they did with the ITH was they computed based on each sample's somatic copy number alterations and somatic mutation data. So basically they kind of like, you know, combined the two. So I guess what we can do in our project is to combine the blood TMB with the PyClone data. And yeah, something like that.
I mean, we can discuss the details later, but let's, yeah.
Okay. And here in D, when patients were segregated by number of clones, distinct survival curves could be seen. Patients with low ITH or intratumor heterogeneity levels had the best survival rates, whereas those with high ITH levels had the worst survival rates. ENF, when combining all three factors, they found that patients with a high ITH and a low mutational or CNV load had the worst survival rates. Finally, for each patient, they computed the cytolytic score, CYT, which is associated with the degree of anti-tumor immunity. The CYT scores were significantly higher in patients with low ITH compared with those with high ITH, and inversely correlated with the degree of number of clones throughout the TCGA cohort. So together, the results clearly demonstrate that melanoma ITH plays a role in patient survival. The authors then established an in vivo mouse system to uncouple TMB and ITH. Here, they first exposed the mouse melanoma cell line to UVB irradiation, a key carcinogenic source driving melanoma initiation. They then generated single cell clones derived from UVB irradiated cells and called it SCC2. SCC1 was derived from the parental cells. In parallel with the increase in TMB upon UVB irradiation, they also detected an increase in ITH from the distribution of the variant allele frequency. They found out that UVB irradiated cells developed into a more aggressive tumor than parental cells when transplanted into immunocompetent syngeneic mice. And neither single cell clones grew well compared to the heterogeneous UVB irradiated cells. Here in this figure, the authors demonstrate that decreased heterogeneity correlates with increased anti-tumor immune response. As you can see in A, all single cell clones giving rise to small tumors. Let me write this again. All single cell clones giving rise to small tumors that were, wait, what am I saying here? So basically, the single cell clones gave rise to small tumors, and those were spontaneously rejected within 2 to 3 weeks. A possible explanation for the aggressive tumor growth of UVB irradiated cells in vivo is the emergence of an escaper single cell clone within the highly heterogeneous cell population that drives the growth of the overall tumor. But as shown in B, the clonal structure and heterogeneity remained stable even after 17 days, after inoculation, confirming that ITH levels did not change over time. In C, the authors generated 10 single cell clones from 2 secondary cell lines derived from 2 distinct UVB irradiated tumors and showed that 8 of the 10 single cell clones grew less aggressively than their respective parental cells, and none exceeded the aggressiveness of their respective parental cell line. In other words, the vast majority of homogeneous single cell clones are not aggressive. The UVB derived tumor remains genetically heterogeneous over time in vivo. Together, these data suggest that the aggressiveness of the UVB irradiated cell line cannot be solely explained by resistant subclones that outgrow the heterogeneous UVB irradiated line.
So that's a very interesting point. I'm a little confused about the D. This is showing that tumor volume growth is same for all. Is that what it's showing? What's the message from the D graph?
I'm confused. I thought it, I think I misread it.
So you want to come back to this later?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's been a while I read this paper, so but go back. I want to emphasize this point that graph B, it's showing the clonal structure, clonality, subclone, and the frequency of different clone density, but the colors are different days of the UV exposed clone growth.
Yeah.
Because the clonal structure did not change over time, the growth of that red curve, UVB red curve, in period, it doesn't mean, because we used to think that the resistant clone is going to overtake the whole population
Yeah.
and grow well. But look at the day post inoculation, day 7 and day 17 is when they show exponential growth.
Yeah.
And it's not like one clone took over.
Mhm.
So this is very counterintuitive. And just maintaining the many different clones at the same time because of the UV causing so many heterogeneity, so increased heterogeneity, itself is a advantage for cancer to escape immune surveillance.
Mhm.
If you take out the single clone, even if the same amount of cancer cell, they are all dead by our immune surveillance. The mouse has a potent immune system, so they're all killed, so they stop growing.
Mhm.
But only when they are very heterogeneous,
Mhm.
they keep growing, they escape immune system.
Mhm.
And it's not one clone taking over.
Mhm.
And that's like revolutionary, I think. And the way they were able to use radiation and single cell inoculation to show that, I think it's genius.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, next.
To rule out that differential growth phenotype between the UVB irradiated line and the single cell clones derived from it was due to the incidental occurrence of some specific UVB-induced mutations in the specific UVB irradiated cell line. They established 2 additional independent sets of UVB irradiated lines here and yeah, and derived single cell clones from them.
Mhm.
It's DNF. As in the previous experiment, most of the single cell clones were rejected. But importantly, all the generated single cell clones grew well in vitro, similar to their cell of origin, UVB radiated line. These results recapitulate their findings with the previous UVB irradiated cell line. They next evaluated whether the growth rates of the tumors harboring different degrees of heterogeneity are mirrored by the degree of T cell reactivity in vivo. This was assessed by extracting total T cell receptor beta tumor infiltrating lymphocytes from non-irradiated parental cells. From non-irradiated parental tumors, UVB irradiated tumors, and single cell clone 2 tumors. To assess T cell reactivity, they measured the fraction of tumor infiltrating lymphocytes positive for the cytotoxic mediator granzyme B coupled with expression of CD107A, a degranulation marker. Here, although total granzyme B positive fractions were similar in tumor infiltrating lymphocytes derived from all tumors, the granzyme B positive CD107A positive fraction of the lymphocytes was significantly reduced in UVB irradiated tumors, whereas it remained similar in both the parental and the single cell clone 2 derived tumors. B, in addition, single cell clone 2 resident tumor infiltrating lymphocytes contained a much higher interferon gamma fraction, indicating stronger tumor infiltrating lymphocyte activation and cytotoxicity. C, to substantiate these results, they analyzed the tumor infiltrating lymphocytes for their CYT cytolytic score. CD8 positive lymphocytes isolated from the SCC2 derived tumors had a higher cytolytic score. And this result recapitulates the high CYT scores of the low intratumor heterogeneity TCGA melanoma patients. So it reflects the patient data. The score significantly correlated with tumor weight. Thus, the SCC2 derived tumors, which had low intratumor heterogeneity and were ultimately rejected in vivo, were more immunogenic than their parental heterogeneous aggressive UVB irradiated tumors, which had high intratumor heterogeneity. In addition to the immune composition of the tumor microenvironment, the spatial distribution of tumor infiltrating lymphocytes within the malignant mass, in particularly immune infiltration into the tumor core, correlated with better survival and treatment success. The immunohistochemistry and immunofluorescence analysis of tumor sections revealed that although tumors derived from all three cell lines accumulated CD8 lymphocytes in the tumor margin, those derived from SCC2 featured both higher penetration of CD8 cells and massive infiltration of tumor infiltrating lymphocytes into the tumor core. They next quantified the levels of regulatory T cells, Tregs, which are known to suppress anti-tumor immunity and promote tumor growth.
You can skip that, yeah.
Okay. To evaluate whether the high immunogenicity and T cell infiltration observed in tumors derived from single cell clones is at least in part due to the presentation of immunogenic neoantigens, they used immunopeptidomics to identify tumor-specific neoantigens in the various UVB-irradiated single cell lines. By doing so, they identified a total of 18 neoantigens on 15 single cell clones. Thus, single clone specific neoantigens can be detected and might facilitate the anti-tumor immune response. To further characterize the 18 identified neoantigens, they experimentally evaluated their binding to the two mirroring MHC class I alleles present on the C57B6 background, H2DB and H2KB. And using this approach, they identified 7 neoantigens such as DNM2, NUP98, and RPTOR that bound H2DB and 2 that bound H2KB. Here, B shows the immunogenicity of each neoantigen described in A. And to study the role of intratumor heterogeneity in tumor rejection, they systematically generated tumors using different combinations of 20 SCCs that were derived from the original highly heterogeneous UV irradiated cell line. The individual single cell clones were mixed in a controlled manner to dissect the functional ramifications of the two fundamental components of tumor heterogeneity: the number of clones comprising the tumor and the genetic diversity between them. As shown in A, a phylogenetic analysis of the heterogeneous UVB cell line yielded a phylogenetic tree with 6 terminal branches numbered TB4 to TB10. They then placed the 20 single cell clones on the various terminal branches of the tree based on their sequence similarity. To study the role of tumor diversity in determining tumor growth, they inoculated 4 different mixtures of 3 single cell clones and monitored their growth. To achieve genetically diverse mixes, each mix contained clones from 3 different terminal branches of the UVB irradiated phylogenetic tree, denoted as across branches, so 3AB. None of the 3 clone mixes ended up forming a large tumor, even 35 days after the mixes were inoculated. However, increasing the number of branches included in the mix from 3 to 6, so 1 clone from each terminal branch denoted as 6AB, resulted in significantly larger tumors compared with 6WB, which refers to 6 clones within the same terminal branch 4. Doubling the number of clones included from each of the 6 terminal branches, so 2 clones from each terminal branch, 12AB, further increased the subclonal to clonal mutation ratio and produced even more aggressive tumors. Here, they next evaluated the functional effects of the tumor's genetic diversity while controlling for the overall mutational load. To this end, they compared the growth of tumors generated from a mixture of clones originating from a single terminal branch. So 6 single cell clones within terminal branch 4 denoted as 6WB. They compared that with those generated from the 6AB mix, comprising clones from 6 different terminal branches. If these two mixes have the same number of clones, so 6 clones and approximately the same mutational loads, but vary in their genetic diversity as assessed by their clonal versus subclonal mutation ratios. Despite having similar,
So can you explain how they came up with AB and WB?
yeah, so AB means one clone from each terminal branch. So these are all from these are from 6 different terminal branches. But W means that they derive, 6 or 12 clones from the same terminal branch. So it's
So
one
now-
terminal branch versus like 6 or 12 terminal branches.
So if you look at WB has 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. So they picked 6 clones from the same
Yeah,
number 4 branch,
yeah, correct.
but then 6AB means they got 7, 10, 8, 4, 6, 9.
Yeah, 9.
So all different branch.
Mhm.
So I guess the heterogeneity is a lot higher for AB, but the mutational bird load is similar. I guess.
Yeah, so they vary in their genetic diversity, but they have the same mutational loads.
I guess they picked it so that the mutational load is same between those. So I'm thinking mutational load may be a little different, but they're exactly same. Huh.
Yeah, that's how they explain it.
Yeah. Okay, and then 12 is the 12 clones. Yeah,
I think this graph is kind of showing how they have the same mutational load, but the composition is different. So they are, the genetic diversity is different.
yeah, okay, you can proceed in this one.
So yeah, in F, differing in their genetic diversity as assessed by the clonal versus subclonal mutation ratios. But despite having similar mutational loads, they identified striking differences in growth between 6AB and 6WB. They made the same comparison between 12WB and 12AB and saw clear differences in tumor growth.
Yeah.
Even though 12AB had a higher mutational load than 6AB, its growth surpassed that of 6AB. This indicates that an increased mutational load is not sufficient to drive tumor rejection. The 12AB tumors were still not as aggressive as the UVB irradiated tumors, emphasizing that the latter tumors harbor a higher degree of intratumor heterogeneity. Taken together, these results testify that both the number of tumor subclones and their genetic diversity play important roles in mediating tumor growth and rejection. To further evaluate the extent to which the number of clones and their genetic diversity affect the anti-tumor immune response in human data, they analyzed 4 previously published melanoma checkpoint inhibitor cohorts from, Snyder et al., Riaz et al., Hugo et al., Van Allen et al., using the Shannon Diversity Index. So A, as an example, a tumor with a low SDI or Shannon Diversity Index would have nearly all of its mutations concentrated in just one clone. So a large truncal neoantigen burden. In contrast, a high SDI tumor would have a high number of clones with mutations spread evenly or diversely across each clone. a large branched neoantigen burden. If you see in B and F, the first cohort analyzed, Snyder et al., comprised data from 54 patients treated with anti-CTLA-4 therapy. They found its SDI index to significantly associate with overall survival. Patients.
You don't have
Oh,
to
here.
explain that. I think it's just, yeah, pretty obvious, like looking at the graph. So Shannon Diversity Index
Yeah.
is a well-known, publicly available index. So you should, calculate that with the Guardant and Tempus. Same way.
Okay.
Yeah. Next.
Okay. Yeah. So it was very difficult to analyze, but I just thought, these highlights were just basically the summary of a really nice summary of this study. So novel mouse system, they built the system to uncouple tumor mutational load and tumor heterogeneity. And they said they found that lower tumor heterogeneity leads to decreased tumor growth because of immune rejection. And then both clonal numbers and their genetic diversity mediate tumor growth and rejection. And tumor heterogeneity is linked to patient survival and checkpoint blockade response.
Yeah. So the fourth one is, so we have non-small cell lung cancer TCGA data. We have downloaded them, and it's available through Lunit as well. But Liam, we have that data. So you can utilize that to test different heterogeneity index or algorithms. Because in melanoma, they've shown that heterogeneity affects survival of surgical patients. These are patients who did not receive any immunotherapy. So we can show that, Charlie Schwanten have shown that in his other papers, the lung cancer data. But what I'm saying is different algorithms that we're developing, we can first test it in TCGA data. And then now apply to the patient survival data, which were all treated with checkpoint blockade. And the third point is what I would like to make is the authors of this paper had access to all that 4 melanoma trial raw data, and that they're made available through NCI funding. So if NIH funds a trial, they make it mandatory that they share the data to public. So you can ask the authors, there's a place to download all these raw files. So we have similar data source for lung cancers as well. So one way to validate our own Northwestern data would be to find open source, open trials, and then download that data to make that kind of graph. So people do that all the time. So just keep that in mind. That's what we like to do in our heterogeneity project. Okay, so this is really good. Yeah, I'll go on. The similar study.
Well, I mean, it wasn't necessarily that similar. Like I tried to search for similar articles, but I found that, the Wolf et al. DVB study was really one of a kind in that they successfully uncoupled TMB and ITH and explored the effects of ITH on like tumor aggressiveness, anti-tumor immunity, immunotherapy response, and patient outcomes independent of TMB.
Yeah.
This study by Wang et al. Similarly used irradiation to induce mutations in mouse melanoma models, and it's called post-irradiation intratumoral heterogeneity modulates response to immune checkpoint inhibition therapy in a murine melanoma model. But instead of creating separate single cell clones to represent low tumor heterogeneity, the authors here divided the irradiated tumors into two groups, where tumors that received low radiation dose were labeled irradiated L to represent low ITH, and tumors that received high radiation dose were labeled irradiated H to represent high ITH.
How did they separate? The low and
Uh,
high? Colonization.
Just by the
was there.
dose, they just gave like low radiation dose to low and then high radiation dose to high.
Oh, okay, just the difference in those.
Yeah,
Okay.
just by difference in dose. And they found that irradiated L tumors with low ITH showed increased TMB, and that both irradiated L and H tumors demonstrated longer overall survival with dual ICI compared to parental unirradiated tumors. But only mice with irradiated L tumors experienced an overall survival benefit with single agent. They repeated the study on rectal adenocarcinoma samples and got similar results. So this preclinical study found an association between ITH and TMB immunotherapy response, but they weren't able to uncouple ITH and TMB as Wolf et al. Had done. And this study wasn't exactly done in like a controlled manner, as they simply changed the irradiation dose and assumed that different dose will lead to different levels of ITH.
And this was done in rectal cancer?
No, it was melanoma, but they confirmed their results with rectal adenocarcinoma samples.
Oh, do you have that graph?
No, this is all they provided. So I think it was just an abstract.
Also, they don't have the manuscript yet?
No.
Oh. Where was this presented? I think it was.
Neoplasia.
But isn't it published? They should have the full article. It looks like a full article to me.
Okay, yeah. Published.
Okay, so here, oh, they used the Nivo IPI. So, parental looks like it's not working that well in parental. And then if you get radiation, then low radiation, you have both IPI, Nivo alone is not working. IPI and Nivo IPI is working. If you high dose irradiation, then it's not working. High dose means high heterogeneity, right? So
Yeah.
it's not working. But if you do low dose radiation, I think your clonality is low. But then, it's different from that. Was that a Cell paper? So the other paper was
Yeah, so
paper different than, irradiation low dose is not is better than parental. Usually it's worse because you increase heterogeneity. But low dose, I think what it does is, because you can create neoantigen by radiating. So I think that's what you're seeing, the effect of neoantigen sensitizing itself to IPI and Nivo IPI. So it's a little different and it kind of shows what happens. And radiation itself kills cancer cells too. Not just create mutation, but they might have given those that just generate mutation but not kill them. So I think there's that difference. But anyway, I think their point is high versus low. High, more heterogeneous, and more, and the therapy doesn't work.
Mhm.
Low is less heterogeneity and therapy works better. Right? Is that the main message?
Yeah.
Can we go to rectal graph? Let's go down.
Oh,
What is this one? Oh, this is post versus pre neoadjuvant radiation rectal cancer samples. Difference in variant allele frequency. So this tells us like mutation frequency and okay, go up. Variant classification, SNV, top 10 mutations, what genes? Okay, go down. There's any, go down. Is that it? Oh. I thought they would have some survival data. Does it? No?
no, it doesn't.
Okay, I think they just show the ITH and TM.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mm.
Interesting. So maybe, so both papers, if you can share the PDF file of both papers, and you can share that through the messenger, our messenger lab meeting room, then we can all read it through and think it through.
Yeah.
But good,
A
good.
lot
I'm
to
glad you
digest.
found this. But yeah, anything that explored ITH and TMB relation and then its impact on survival, those are good. And there's different clinical papers looking at tumor heterogeneity, how that affects. So the next assignment for you is to look for ITH and how that affects survival in patients receiving immunotherapy. Doesn't matter, melanoma, lung, head and neck, you know, in whichever. If there's a paper that looked into ITH affecting the immunotherapy response in any tumors type, in any setting, neoadjuvant or stage 4, doesn't matter. The initial paper that showed that for the first time comes from Memorial Sloan Kettering group, and then he moved to Columbia, I think. Dr. Nayer, it's the subclonality or clonality. It's published in Science, immunotherapy outcome. I can't remember it. If I think of the name, I'll let you know, but just, yeah. science, subclonal, non-small cell lung cancer, heterogeneity. You can search it. That paper is the very first one. I'm sure there are many other papers that followed that paper. Okay, next.
PARP inhibitor. That's where I think.
Yeah. This will be
Yeah.
pretty brief. Yeah. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So I've decided to look for clinical trials of PARP inhibitors in lung cancer because one of our patients with small cell lung cancer had progression of disease despite multiple lines of therapy, and his most recent Guardant 360 showed loss of BRCA2 and SHEC2.
Mhm.
To just to give a brief little background, BRCA2 and SHEC2 are homologous recombination related genes. PARP inhibitors are most effective in tumors with compromised homologous recombination mediated DNA repair. They are approved for the treatment of breast, ovarian, prostate, and pancreatic cancer, which are the solid tumor types most frequently associated with loss of function mutations in key homologous recombination genes, such as BRCA1 and 2. In terms of mechanisms, use of PARP inhibitors can result in double-stranded breaks during DNA replication. Treating BRCA2 and SHEC2 mutant tumors with PARP inhibitors theoretically results in DNA damage that cannot be adequately repaired, leading to chromosomal instability, cell cycle arrest, and subsequent apoptotic cell death. During my search, I tried to select the trials that may give us insight into the mutational landscape of lung cancers that respond well to PARP inhibitors. So let's look at small cell lung cancer first. This trial is called randomized double-blind phase 2 study of temozolomide and in combination with either veliparib or placebo in patients with relapsed, sensitive, or refractory small cell lung cancer. Temozolomide, which is a alkylating chemotherapy most commonly used in brain tumors.
No, you just have to tell us the result. You don't have to explain.
Okay. Yeah. So a total of 104 patients with recurrent small cell lung cancer were randomly assigned 1-to-1 to oral veliparib or placebo 40 mg twice daily, days 1 to 7, and oral temozolomide 150 to 200 mg per day, days 1 to 5 of a 28-day cycle until disease progression, unacceptable toxicity, or withdrawal of consent.
Mhm.
Response was determined by imaging at weeks 4 and 8, and
It's
every
okay.
8
You
weeks
can
thereafter.
skip. You can skip.
Okay. Methods.
So, this one you can, well, yeah, this one you can skip. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just well balanced.
Okay.
Here, Kaplan-Meier curves for outcomes. A shows PFS and OS, or PFS, and then B shows OS for the 104 patients with sensitive or refractory small cell lung cancer in need of second or third line therapy. No significant difference in 4-month PFS was noted between temozolomide/veliparib and temozolomide/placebo. Median OS was also not improved significantly between the two groups.
Yeah.
These graphs show the overall response rates. A shows the change in tumor size in 49 evaluable patients in the temozolomide veliparib arm. B shows the change in tumor size in 44 evaluable patients in the temozolomide placebo arm. As you can see, overall response rate was significantly higher in patients receiving temozolomide veliparib compared to those receiving the placebo with temozolomide. Now, among the exploratory objectives, The study found that in patients with SLFN11 positive tumors, those treated with TMZ veliparib had significantly prolonged PFS and OS. Other exploratory objectives didn't give us significant data. D shows the swim plot of months on trial in the TMZ veliparib treatment arm. And the treatment arm, so it was color coded by potential biomarker of response. Blue indicates SLFN11 positive, and we can see that SLFN positive 11 positive tumors stayed the longest in trial. E shows a summary of biomarker status. Gray indicates biomarker assayed and not detected. White indicates no data. And again, SLFN11 positive tumors treated with TMZ veliparib showed the best response. If you look closely at the graph, you'll see that the study did evaluate the association between SHEK2 mutation status and response. However, this mutation was only found in one patient, which wasn't enough to derive any significant interpretation. Targeted sequencing was performed on tumors from 11 patients, and revealed mutations in the following DNA repair genes previously implicated in PARP inhibitor response in other disease types: ATN, BRCA2, and SHEK2. 3 patients with DNA repair gene mutations received TMZ placebo and had a median OS of 10.4 months, compared with 6.2 months for all patients treated with TMZ placebo. In the TMZ veliparib arm, the 4 patients with mutations ATM and BRCA had a median OS of 8.6 months, compared to 8.1 months for others in this cohort. So in conclusion, the PFS OS didn't differ between the 2 arms, but a significant improvement in overall response rate was observed with TMZ veliparib. SLFN11 expression was associated with improved PFS and OS in patients receiving TMZ veliparib, suggesting a promising biomarker of PARP inhibitor sensitivity in small cell lung cancer.
Yeah, so my comment is, this trial, we learned that SLFN11 expression by immunohistochemistry is a good marker. So we looked at other PARP inhibitor plus irinotecan, and this was our SWOG trial. We randomized patients only who had SLFN11 to irinotecan plus minus PARP inhibitor. And that trial is finished, now just waiting for the results to mature.
Oh,
So this based on this paper, we
cool.
might have a new standard of care coming up very soon. So this is how we make progress through biomarkers and innovative clinical trials. And it's important, it's very interesting. The tumor shrinks, but they don't live long. And there's got to be a reason why. In immunotherapy trials, tumor does not shrink. They shrink the same way as control, but they live long. So there's something about biology that's very different. PARP inhibitors and other tumors. Go ahead. So this brings me to Dr. Jian's one of the question that I asked her is, the PARP inhibitor in ovarian cancer trials, why are they detrimental? So once you have the data ready, you can present that in the next few meetings, Dr. Jian. But anyway, you can go to the non-small cell lung cancer.
Yeah, so non-small cell lung cancer. This is phase 2 study of talazoparib in patients with homologous recombination repair deficient squamous cell lung cancer. And this is a monotherapy clinical trial compared to the combination therapy trial we just discussed previously. The study separated their cohorts into 2 populations. The full eligible population included patients with tumors that had a deleterious mutation in any of the study-defined homologous repair homologous recombination repair genes as listed here. These patients were treatment naive to a PARP inhibitor. The other group, primary analysis population, which they consider it a subset of FEP, had patients with tumors that showed alteration in these 5 specific genes. So, you know, they were treated with talazoparib, and yeah, so you know, in order to get some to derive some power and have a one-sided 0.07 level type 1 error required for basically, so they had to get, you know, an overall response rate of 15% or less to get like a significant data.
Mhm.
Eventually they didn't. Here in the FEP, median PFS and OS were 2.5 months and 5.7 months respectively.
Mhm.
And then the median PFS and OS in PAP group were 2.4 months and 5.2 months respectively.
What was PAP?
The primary analysis population with alteration in one of these 5 genes.
Oh, okay.
This is a waterfall plot that shows the changes in tumor size in all 24 eligible patients in the PAP who received at least 1 dose of talazoparib. To summarize, this group had a complete response rate of 0%, partial response 4%, stable disease 50%, progression of disease in 25% of patients, and 3 patients did not meet the minimum assessment required. So when we look at the overall response rate and disease control rates in each group, FEP overall response rate 11%, disease control rate 51, median duration of response 1.8. In the primary analysis population, the overall response rate of 4%, disease control rate of 54%. So since the overall response rate was less than 15%, this study basically failed to demonstrate the minimum efficacy signal in terms of overall response rate, and it had to be closed to further enrollment. So this is the end of stage 1 accrual. So this was basically a failed trial, and I couldn't
Right.
find a better one.
Right,
And
right.
it's
So
also
here
interesting.
we learned that even like 11% response rate is not enough. 4%. Clearly some tumors responded, but you know, you could argue that they had the right mutation ATM part, BRCA, but that's not good enough. So the monotherapy, the next question is, you know, what happens if you add immunotherapy to this? Is there, you know, so I know there are ongoing trials, but I don't know if you found any other ones or these are anything else.
Oh, I didn't look at the immunotherapy stuff, no. I just focused on PARP inhibitor, like monotherapy.
As a monotherapy, okay.
Mm.
So because you just looked at the PARP inhibitor, why don't you look at them like immunotherapy plus PARP inhibitor if there's any trial that showed anything promising or anything close to promising? And
In lung cancer in general.
in lung cancer or in any other solid tumors. And if you do that, I think you can contribute at least a paragraph or 2 to the, so I obtained funding from BMS to run study with Nivo, and I obtained funding from AbbVie to get veliparib. So I combined both and ran that trial in patients who have BRCA or ATM or similar mutations. So this was a trial that Dean this morning talked about, that he's writing a paper, Nivo plus veliparib in all solid tumor with homologous repair deficiency. So because you're reading on this topic anyway, why don't you read the immunotherapy plus PARP approach and see if there's any recent advances made, or they all failed miserably, then you should write as such. But if you can add those, like, up-to-date information, which is work with Dean to enrich the discussion part for that trial. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good, good. And you can, present what you found by reading. Yeah. So anyway, there's a controversy about PARP. The PARP in ovarian cancer the approval got revoked. So we need to study the mechanism behind it, or at least the data to convince us that this is a true phenomenon, and we don't want to use PARP. It's almost like hyperprogression. Like if you use immunotherapy, the tumor will grow faster. Perhaps in a selected genomic population, if you use PARP, maybe you'll make them die sooner. Do you understand? If you transfuse red blood cell, you can make them die sooner. So that's in cancer patients that are curative chemo setting. So I think so our lab is particularly interested in the question, do no harm, and develop a biomarker to avoid that circumstance. That's why we're so interested in hyperprogression biomarker. And that's what Minjung has been doing. But also, if PARP is dangerous for a certain group, we need to know who they are. So maybe, because we don't have time today, maybe we can discuss that next meeting with Jian. Is that okay? Okay, so I think we'll wrap up here. Eileen, do you have any quick update on what you've been doing?
I guess one major update would be that Dr. Isol and Emma and I met up for the first time last Tuesday to just get started on the variant classification project again.
Good.
That's a major update. So we're trying to do like weekly meetings to just keep each other accountable and get started on that.
Nice. Keep going with that. Okay, so we'll wrap up here and talk to you guys later. Thank you.